Welcome to Building the Difference, candid conversation with the professionals who understand the challenges of Saudi Arabia's transformation. I am Mohammad Yunus and I work with the organizations executing Vision 2030 projects. Today's guest is Alex Malouf, a communication strategist and only chartered communicator in the MEA and Asia region. He worked across some of the Saudi Arabia's most ambitious transformation projects, from automotive to real estate to mega skill development. Alex Malouf, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. It's a pleasure to be with you.
So, Alex, when you're trying to attract the international investors, developers, or the partners who have never set a foot in Riyadh, what's the single biggest perception barriers you have seen?
I think with everything that's happening, with any place in the world, what people want to hear is a good story. They want to know where the country is headed. They want to know what the aspirations are for the country, how the country is investing in itself,
right?
Both in terms of its infrastructure as well as its people. And they want to feel confidence in that story. They want to get a sense that there is progress, it's tangible. They want to see that the overall result of this vision, this strategy, is a place where people want to live, they want to work,
right,
want to play and enjoy themselves. So as long as you give them that, you give them that story, that narrative, which they can buy into, you will always have interest and you will always see engagement. So, that's what I see, for example, today with the Kingdom, with the Vision 2030. There's a very strong narrative as to how the Kingdom wants to progress, grow, become, one of the leading economies globally, set its standard in terms of industries, become a global destination as well in terms of tourism. There's many different aspects of Vision 2030, but the narrative running through is one of confidence, one of belief, and one of growth.
Perfect. So is that the Saudi specific challenges, or do all the emerging markets face this kind of challenge?
I think that you're going to see this, you will see this among many countries and emerging markets. There are always going to be challenges in terms of information availability, one. Two, transparency. Even in the information you're receiving, is it correct information? Then three, access as well. What are the laws regarding investment, regarding foreign investment in particular? How can you have access to funding? How are you able to take it out of the country as well? So it's not just, the Kingdom. Investors are going to ask this about any country they may not know much about. And it's the role of the country and of organizations within the country to help answer those questions and give confidence to people that what is happening is sustainable, that the growth is long-term, that whatever investment they put into the country is going to pay dividends for whoever is putting the money in.
Right. So here is what I am curious about, where I am asking about, is that the data problem, they don't see the execution evidence, or is it a narrative problem where we are not telling the story well? Or it is just a time they need to see for 5 to 10 years delivery before they believe?
Okay. So if you are a foreign investor, if you're somebody who doesn't know the region, what you need is a constant level or a constant flow of communication. That's one.
Right.
You need to be able to be aware of what is happening, what is going on. That's the first piece. The second is you need to see progress. You need to ensure that your investors understand what is changing and the speed of that change as well. And that then needs to be tied in to the overall vision. So they need to be able to understand the progress which is being made from start to finish.
Right.
And you bring all of those together, that's what gives people confidence.
Perfect. So, from your experience, what is the most frustrating misconception you hear about Saudi mega projects?
I think the challenge that we have in communicating about these projects is that often investors will lump them all as one, whereas each project is very different
Right.
in terms of its scope and its capacity to execute,
Right.
and the delivery side as well, and obviously tied into delivery's results. With some of the projects, they're very much focused on tourism. You're working with existing infrastructure, and they've made real progress.
Right.
With others, you're seeing the fruits of their labor literally today, and you will see more, not to say results, but you will see
Mm-hmm.
sustained progress as
Right.
each part of that particular project is launched, is pushed out. With some of the projects, they are very futuristic in terms of their scope.
Right.
And the again, the timelines for those, you're looking at a much longer period. You're not looking at years, you're looking at decades. So what I'd
Right.
say is it comes back to the communication of what is happening, being clear in terms of what is going to be delivered, when, by when,
Right.
what the impact is going to be, and showing, between now and then, what progress is being made. And again, by having that progress, those updates on progress, as an investor, that gives me confidence and comfort that one, there's delivery,
Oh,
which is
great.
fantastic to see.
Right.
And two, as well, that tied in with delivery is customer satisfaction. For example, if I'm a an operator of resorts, or if I'm an operator of attractions,
Right.
seeing those come online and seeing the reviews, seeing how everything is working, the smoothness of operations, seeing the inflow of people, reading about the reviews, looking at the imagery, looking at the videos, looking at basically the media coverage, all that helps in terms of building confidence up.
All right. Perfect. So, how do you counter that without sounding defensive? Is there a misconception that's actually or partly true?
I always say that seeing is believing.
Right.
The best way,
Perfect answer.
the one of the best ways to do this is, first of all, bring in what I call the middle people, the media.
Right.
You could bring in influencers, people who have a large following. Let them experience the change.
Right.
For example, we had the launch of one of the theme parks, the first theme park in Riyadh, 31st December 2025. This is a project which has been talked about for many years, but actually living that change, people coming in and seeing that it's real, that you can go on the rides, you can experience the F&B, that you can even buy a ticket.
Right.
All
Correct.
these things are priceless. And once people experience it, then they'll go out and they'll share it with others. And they'll say, okay, Saudi's talked about this for a couple of years now.
Right.
And we are seeing, not just execution, but we're actually seeing conclusion to the elements of the projects. And
Right.
that's huge. That's a huge win for the country. It's a huge win for the projects, and
Exactly.
it's a major win for the people investors as well.
Perfect. So I think this ties into something you wrote recently about building confidence into strategies that take 10 to 15 years. So let's talk about the execution challenge basically here. So here is the tension every communicator faces. Mega projects are managing massive complexity, hundreds of contractors, phased delivery across years, market dynamics, and the supply chain challenges. Inevitably, things won't go exactly to plan. A contractor delays, a phase shift, or cost changes. The question is, when that happens, what have you absorbed the works better? The transparent communication about what went wrong, or why, you are staying polished and optimistic to protect the reputation? Where is the line?
Look, first of all, we're all human.
All right,
I love to say that everything goes to plan.
all right,
Inevitably, nothing ever goes to plan.
all right,
There are always changes. You've got to remain agile.
all right.
You have to be resilient.
Exactly.
But I do believe that investors, one thing they love is transparency, and I think showing
True.
one the progress that is being made is an easy win for
Right.
communicators. But when things do need to change, likewise communicate those changes. Explain the rationale behind it. If there has to be reprioritization based on specific projects which are more time sensitive, then we need to do that. But spell it out clearly. I always say
That's
as well that people are not stupid.
exactly.
They
That's true.
can read
That's
between the
true.
lines.
Exactly.
So again, treat them with intelligence. Give them the information that they will appreciate for them to make the right decision. And they will do. But I would rather give them more information and be more transparent than do the opposite.
Right.
Because what I don't want them to do is fill in the gaps by themselves.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's really true. So, have you seen any mega projects communicate major setbacks well? That means, what did they do right, or do investors prefer honesty even if it is uncomfortable? Is there a such thing as too much transparency?
I would use the example, say, of the entertainment city, the project which is being built outside of Riyadh. It was one of the first projects which was announced as part of
Hmm.
Vision 2030. Timelines, I think it's fair to say, got stretched, but they had a duty to communicate that to
Hmm.
their stakeholders and to their audiences.
Right.
And they've done a good job in terms of keeping people engaged,
Okay.
keeping them interested, and showing people, both the progress and the ultimate vision of
Right.
where they want to be. And again, given a choice between more transparency and less, I would always go for more
Right.
because,
True.
people want to know what's happening. They want to know what's going on. You don't want the gap to be filled by misinformation. You don't want the gap to be filled by other people communicating.
Hmm.
So, ensure that an investor has the information they need to give them the comfort that they are making the right decision.
Right. And I think,
Because even if
hmm,
they don't want to invest now, they may invest further down the line. But as long as they trust in you, that is the core principle of what we
right.
should be trying to
Perfect.
achieve.
That's right. And I think you have written about this idea that confidence comes from progress, not promises. But here is my question as someone who works in the system and data, can you PR your way out of the execution problem? Like, in other words, if a project is delayed or over budgeted, can clever messaging fix that? Or does reputation ultimately require visible or measurable progress?
I very much believe that reputation is built on 90%
True.
action and 10% talk. You cannot
Right.
spin your way out of a challenge. You have to be clear, you
Right.
have to be open and transparent. Tell people what's going on.
Right.
The scale of what's being done in a place like Saudi is vast. If you look at the size of the kingdom, it's equivalent to the size of Germany and France. If
Right.
you look at the number of projects which are happening here,
Hmm.
there is no place in the world which has a number of mega projects that you would
Right.
find today in Saudi Arabia.
Exactly.
It is
True.
inevitable that there are always going to be issues which come up, nothing is plain sailing. A lot of what is being done here hasn't been done before.
Right. Exactly.
At the same time, progress is being made. It's tangible. People are living it. They're seeing it, and they're very happy about it.
Right.
So, you know, just be clear when you're communicating. Don't hide it, because people will see through that. Um,
Exactly.
you know, there will be reports. Everybody speaks. So again, just lead from the front.
That's right. So, from what you have seen, how do successful mega project use data to back up their narrative? Do they share the real-time metrics publicly, or what role does technology play in building the investor confidence? If you could give a mega project executives one data capability that they don't have today, what would it be?
What I would say is, if you look at the best examples of communication, they are sharing on a regular basis, through different medium, through visual storytelling,
Right.
through specific data points in terms of how much is being done.
True.
And they're doing it in a way which is relatable to the audience. They're saying, for example, this week, this month, we have developed, I don't know how many football pitches or how many swimming pools, of land. They are trying to ensure that their audience understands what is going on.
Right.
And they're doing it with regularity, with consistency,
Right.
and that helps to breed confidence
Exactly.
in
True.
terms of that specific project. And that's a good example of how you can do things well.
True.
Don't hide away from sharing updates. Don't hide away from sharing information.
Right.
As I said, lead from the front. Make people aware of what's happening, and do it, with that consistency.
Exactly. So many of these projects, I have seen that they have timelines of 10 to 15 years of full delivery. That's a generation. So, from your perspective, how do you maintain the credibility when results are that far out? Most investors want the quarterly return, but Saudi is asking them to believe in the decade long outcomes.
When you look at the mega projects, you'll see them understandably being developed in phases. So even though these projects are generational in terms of timelines, you're talking about, decades.
All right.
You will see results year on year. And it's not just investors, the
True.
shareholders are asking for this. The board wants to see this. Boards of these projects want to see it. The public wants to see it as well, because, you're looking at massive infrastructure
True.
projects. You're looking at major developments, which have an impact on the cities, that we live in. So, you will see things cut up into stages, which is wise, because people, they do have a short-term mindset often,
Exactly. That's a
especially
human tendency.
small. It's a human tendency. We don't look to the long term. We want to see, okay,
Exactly.
how are we going to do in the next 3 months? How are we even going to do in the next week or two? Forget months even.
All right.
Um, so, by ensuring that you're spelling out both the vision as well as the journey to the end goal, you are helping investors see what they can do or what they can achieve over the long term, as well as spelling out the progress which can be made and is being made on the short term.
All right. Correct.
By doing both, again, you give them comfort that things are moving in the right direction, and you establish and you grow their trust in you in terms of what's happening
All
for
right.
the long term.
Exactly. So, should projects celebrate the small wins publicly to show the momentum? How
Yeah.
do you balance the short term communication with the long term vision?
Look, the long term vision is what you keep repeating. You keep
True.
explaining, what the story is.
Right.
where you were headed towards and how you were getting there, and the why also. Why are you doing this huge development? What is the benefit of this
Right.
huge development? But at the same time, celebrating, the regular wins, on a short-term basis, just helps in terms of assuaging people that you're on the right track. You
Right.
are literally saying to people, we know what we're doing, we're headed in the right way. There may be some twists and turns in terms of the road, but we know we'll get there.
Right. Correct. So let's zoom out and talk about the bigger picture, Saudi Arabia's reputation globally, and where this all heading. So the future of Saudi storytelling, I can say. So from what you have observed, what do Saudi mega projects do better than global competitors? Emaar in Dubai, Nakhil, international developers. What's the advantage?
Well, first of all, I think the scale of the projects here, it's very hard to compare them with other brands, with other developments. You were talking about the projects here, some of them, being literally on a country scale, on a countrywide scale. You're talking about, hundreds of thousands of homes, for example, being developed. You're talking
Right.
about, massive stadia, which need to be built for the 2034 World Cup. So it's very hard to compare
Right.
the scale of what is being built within the kingdom. And that's both an opportunity and a challenge, because, you are doing things which are unprecedented, which are, you know, I think unfathomable in
Mhm.
some ways. It's very hard to get a sense as to how much this transformation is all encompassing on a
Right.
national level. At the same time, because you're doing something which hasn't been done before, you are effectively leading the way in terms of building up that vision and building up that imagery and telling that story for investors. What the kingdom is doing very well is it's built up, through Vision 2030, the initial aspirations and the goals of national development.
Right.
The
True.
first stage, the first half of Vision 2030 has been very much focused on a local audience in terms
Right.
of what is happening, in terms of why these things need to happen as well. Ensuring that the kingdom is one of the global economies, ensuring that it can attract and it is attracting the right talent, building up the right industries. And that's very much a focus actually on the local community, on the Saudi community, which I sometimes think is not fully understood internationally. Now, the second part of Vision 2030 is very much focused on the international piece,
Right.
be it with foreign direct investment from organizations outside. It's on international tourism, on people coming in and visiting places like Riyadh, Al Ula, obviously Mecca and Medina is a given,
Yes. True.
with their importance to Islam. And then the third piece of a number of other pieces is the investment, for example, into real estate,
All right.
which is happening as of this year. It's beginning to happen as of this year. So, you put those things together, and you've got a fantastic story in terms of national growth, in terms of development, in terms of, a countrywide transformation. The kingdom is trying to do in the space of one generation what other countries have done over maybe 3 or 4 generations.
Right. Perfect.
And
So,
as a storyteller,
hmm.
that is incredible. That's an incredible thing to say. It's very compelling.
So is that the advantage sustainable, or can competitors copy it? How should that advantage be communicated to the people familiar with Saudi projects?
So, to repeat what I said, I don't think there's any comparison to what the kingdom is doing. The scale of what is happening, the ambition
Right.
of the country and the government and the people, and the potential for growth. There is nothing like this happening anywhere else on the planet today. What we have to do as a communicator, as communicators, is to ensure that message is being conveyed
Right.
to the right
True.
audiences and is understood. And then the audiences that we are engaging with, they can act upon that information to then think, okay, if we are not in Saudi, we should be there, one. And if we are in Saudi, how can we best invest to support not only the kingdom's growth, but our growth as well as organizations?
All right. So, if the leadership at Neom, Red Sea Project, or Diria asked you for one piece of advice on reputation management, what would you tell to them?
One piece of advice that would be a tough one. What I would hope the government is doing, what I see is happening.
Right.
There is a need for a unified approach. There is so much going on here that I think it can be sometimes a challenge to connect the dots and tell the bigger picture. Because
Right.
it's not just about one mega project. It's not just about two of them. It's about
Exactly.
what is happening on a national level.
Right. You're
And
right.
by ensuring that everybody sticks to that message, and that, for example, if you have influencers or media coming in, they can see as much of this transformation as possible in terms of geography,
True. True.
in terms of industry, in terms of project. That really matters because it amplifies the story. It gives it more credibility. It's not just about one thing or two things. It's about everything.
Exactly.
That's the difference.
So, is there something Saudi Giga Projects collectively could do better, or what could Saudi learn from the Dubai's approach, or should we do things differently?
Again, I would never compare what is happening in Saudi to anywhere else. The scale, the ambition, the overall vision is
Right.
uniquely Saudi. I think try and compare it, you're sort of heading down the wrong track.
Exactly.
What I would say is, you've got to stay consistent in terms of the story. You've got to make sure that you keep on telling that story as far as and as wide as possible, and just engage with everybody.
Right.
There are a lot of people who have questions. There are skeptics as well, and I always think the best way to win people over is to talk with them, is to listen to them, and is to bring them over here so they can see with their own eyes and they can understand, through their own lens what is happening, and they can
That's
speak
true.
to people, by themselves to actually ask, is this real? Is it making an impact? What does it mean for you? So that really for me
Perfect.
is key.
Perfect. Perfect. So we are already halfway through the Vision 2030. So by 2030, what does success look like from a reputation perspective? Not delivery, reputation. How will the world views the Saudi Arabia's differently?
Reputation never stops. There is no end point. You
Right.
either grow it or you diminish it. What I would say is, if you look at the KPIs of Vision 2030, for example, with international tourism,
Right.
that number for 2030 was exceeded, I believe, a year ago. It's not a year and a half ago.
Great.
And these are examples of how the kingdom's reputation is growing on a global level.
Is that realistic or are we being too optimistic? What's the biggest risk to that vision?
Look, I think you've always got to aim for the stars. You've always got to, look big.
Right.
Why think small? And this is what Vision 2030 is all about. It's a national transformation.
That's right.
Nothing about Vision 2030 is small. So you hit your target and then you raise your target for your next KPI. That's always going to be the case, especially here.
True.
There's no going back. If you know the leadership of the country, you'll appreciate when I say that there is literally no going back. It's just progress, progress, and progress, and
All
you
right.
keep on moving forward.
So we'll move to the last strategic question. If you could have wave a magic wand and change one thing about how Saudi Arabia tells its story globally, not in a specific company, but the kingdom broadly, what would you fix?
I would go back to the point I made about engagement. There are always going to be cynics. There's always going to be skeptics.
True.
I think I believe sincerely that the more you engage with them, the more that you will win over some of them. You're not going to win over all of them,
Right.
but I do believe that those people, many of them don't appreciate what is happening here,
True.
don't understand the scale of what is going on. And once they come and they see with their own eyes, and as I said, they get to speak to people on the ground, they get to
Right.
experience what we in the kingdom experience on a daily basis. I think they will appreciate the scale of the vision, how much progress is being made, and how much more is yet to come. And that's what makes the kingdom so exciting.
All right.
Both what has been achieved and also what is to come.
Perfect. All right. So let's shift the gears. I have 5 rapid fire questions. First
Sure.
thing that comes to the mind, no filter. Ready?
Go for it.
Biggest reputation risk for the Saudi mega projects in the next 12 months?
All I see is opportunity, and I think opportunity to engage, and keep on telling the story about progress.
True. Second, one company, Saudi or global, that does mega project storytelling exceptionally well.
One company which does storytelling, mega project storytelling very well. That's a really, really tough one. I actually live in Diriyah,
Okay.
and I love what they've done in terms of their first stage, and how they communicate it. But even then, it's only stage one, and I think they have. I know they have an opportunity to try and explain how much more is to come. So I think they've done a fantastic job going internationally, but there is still way more to come in terms of that particular project.
Perfect. So finish this sentence. Most international investors don't understand that Saudi mega projects.
They don't understand that Saudi mega projects have the opportunity to change both the face of the kingdom, but
Perfect.
also as well the face of the region and even global development.
Exactly. So best piece of advice for someone joining Giga Project Communications tomorrow?
Hold your breath. You're in for a crazy ride.
What surprised you most about working in Saudi mega project versus your previous role at CEO, PNG, etc.?
I think the scale of what is being done and the pace at which things are moving,
Right.
that will really surprise people when they come in.
Exactly. So, Alex, this is exactly the conversation I hoped for. Honest, strategic, no BS. I think people will really appreciate your candor. Before we wrap up, 2 quick things. The first thing is, where can people follow your work? I know you run a newsletter. What it's called?
So you can follow me on LinkedIn, where I post. I've got a newsletter there. I post my thoughts on a regular basis. And if they have questions, they can always reach out to me by email.
Great. We will link that in show the notes. So second one, if someone listening works at mega projects and want to think differently about reputation, what's one thing that they should do this week?
The one thing I always advise is try and find, and again, this is not easy given where we are, try
Right.
and find a moment for yourself where you can clear your mind and you can take a deep breath
Right.
and you can try and get creative. Because if you have a pause, if you have a break, that's when you can get more creative.
True. Perfect, Alex Malouf. Thanks for being for the building the difference. For everyone listening, if this resonates, share it with someone working on Vision 2030 projects. We need more honest conversation like this. And next episode, we'll moving to the FIFA managed $960 million in 18 months with zero audit findings. NEOM will spend 500 billion over 10 years. So what's the difference between mega event finance and the Giga Project Finance? I sat down with former financial director of the FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022 to find out. And what he told me about the Saudi Arabia's financial controls, every CFO working on Vision 2030 need to hear it. I am Mohammad Yunus. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Mohammed.